Kristaps Porzingis has not delivered the impact the Hawks expected because of injury. Could they change course and trade him? The Atlanta Hawks are far from where they imagined they would be in the 2025-26 season. After an aggressive offseason, bringing in Kristaps Porzingis via trade with the Boston Celtics and signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker in free agency, the expectation was a real leap in the Eastern Conference. Instead, they remain mediocre, with a 15-16 record at Christmas, stuck in the middle of a 4-game losing streak. What the media is not telling you is this: Boston sent Porzingis to Atlanta in a 3-team deal with Brooklyn that also included Terrence Mann heading to the Nets. This was the second significant move in less than 24 hours for the Celtics, who also traded Drew Holiday. The brutal truth is that Boston was desperately cutting costs after Jayson Tatum suffered an Achilles injury. Brad Stevens and his staff were forced to make painful decisions to reduce Boston's luxury tax penalty. Porzingis revealed that during the playoffs, his heart rate could spike to 130 beats per minute just from standing up, saying it hit me like a truck. Medical experts indicate that roughly 90% of people with POTS respond to treatment, but outcomes are more uncertain for newly diagnosed adults, with some never fully recovering and others even worsening over time. Radical changes coming for the Clippers? Hawks receive Ivica Zubac, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Clippers receive Kristaps Porzingis, Atlanta first-round pick in 2026, with San Antonio holding swap rights. A swap of Atlanta's 2027 first-round pick, with Los Angeles receiving the most favorable of the less favorable between Atlanta and New Orleans, and the less favorable of Los Angeles, Denver, or Oklahoma City. Atlanta first-round pick in 2028, and a swap of Atlanta's 2029 first-round pick. Trading 2 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps for Ivica Zubac does not seem smart for the Hawks. To start, Zubac is out with an ankle sprain and will be sidelined for multiple weeks. On top of that, it is not as if Atlanta is one piece away from a title. They are currently 15-16 and clearly struggling. The 2025 season for the Los Angeles Clippers has been devastating. With a 7-21 record, despite a roster that looks talented on paper, they could end up being buyers at the trade deadline because there is still real talent on this team, and a move is needed to spark the group. More importantly, they also need to keep winning because they do not own their own first-round pick in this draft. That pick belongs to the Thunder. Brett Siegel of Clutch Points reported that veteran Washington Wizards guard CJ McCollum has been mentioned in trade discussions involving the Los Angeles Clippers. With 6 weeks still remaining before the trade deadline, there is uncertainty around the Clippers' exact plan. But McCollum fits what they are trying to do and could help push them toward the postseason. Here is the brutal truth no one is saying. The Clippers' offense has leaned far too heavily on isolation creation, and without Beal, the attack has turned into an offensive desert. Meanwhile, Washington sits at 5-22, dead last in the NBA. The disconnect between a full rebuild and a 34-year-old scorer on an expiring contract is obvious. McCollum would be an instant contributor. The 34-year-old veteran is averaging 18.8 points, 3.5 assists, and 3.3 rebounds per game in Washington, while shooting 39.9% from 3 and 44.5% from the field. Even at 34, McCollum has shown he is still a high-level scorer for the Wizards. Boston moves off Niang and Pritchard, roughly $14 million combined. Acquires Bogdanovic as a veteran with only 2 years left on his contract, and immediately eases its tax burden. The Celtics are less than $1 million above the second apron after adding Luka Garza and Josh Minott, so this move would put them back below the line. The Clippers get the desperately needed scorer in McCollum without sacrificing Leonard or Harden, and also add George Niang for additional floor spacing. McCollum's $30.7 million contract could complicate a potential deal, but it is an expiring contract, and the Clippers would have no issue matching incoming salary if the framework starts with John Collins' $26.6 million expiring deal. What if the silence around Anthony Simons is actually the loudest warning the Celtics could receive? Around the league, executives keep repeating the same uncomfortable truth. Boston is still trying to move Simons, and that alone tells a story. When a team keeps insisting a player is staying, it usually means no one is biting. Simons has been productive, 13 points per night, solid efficiency, reliable bench. On paper, he helps. But the NBA is never just about numbers. The real pressure is financial. Boston needs to clear more than $12 million to avoid brutal tax penalties. Simons carries a $27.7 million expiring deal, and that makes him the most obvious escape hatch. Obvious, but not easy. Rival front offices see the calendar. Why trade assets now if they can wait and negotiate in the summer? And here is where it gets uncomfortable for Celtics fans. If Boston attaches draft picks just to dump salary, is that smart team building or quiet panic? A first-round pick in 2026 for tax relief feels reckless for a franchise built on long-term dominance. But standing still has a cost, too. Some around the league argue this stalemate exposes a deeper issue. The Celtics are elite on the court, but boxed in by their own success. Every contract looks heavy. Every move feels desperate. Simons becomes less a player and more a symbol of a roster pushed to its limit. Brad Stevens praises his professionalism. Teammates trust him, but trust does not move contract. The question now is brutal. Do the Celtics sacrifice future flexibility to protect the present, or gamble that patience will not backfire? And if the market never appears, what does that say about Boston's leverage when the next star becomes available? Is Zion Williamson running out of excuses, or is the league running out of patience? 5 seasons into his NBA career, the same pattern refuses to disappear. Flashes of dominance, long absence, and now, in the 2025 season, Zion has played barely half the game. New Orleans keeps talking about rotation adjustments, minutes limits, careful management. But what nobody wants to say out loud is this: the Pelicans may already be done believing. That is where the Celtics quietly enter the conversation. Around the league, executives are asking an uncomfortable question. If Zion is still averaging over 21 points, despite limited rhythm, what happens if a contender manages his body better than New Orleans ever did? Boston sees a rare opportunity, a distressed asset with superstar upside, moving at a discount because fear has replaced hype. The Celtics do not need to touch Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown. That alone changes the math. A package built around Anthony Simons, rotational depth and future picks gives Boston flexibility without breaking its core. And suddenly, Zion is not asked to carry a franchise. He is asked to finish plays, attack mismatches, and punish switches next to 2 elite wings. But here comes the spicy debate nobody wants to have. Is Zion actually a better playoff gamble than another role player and cap flexibility? Boston already knows the cost of playing it safe. Tax pressure is real. The window is now. Waiting for perfect health might be the real risk. Compare that to the Lakers chasing star power, the Heat betting on culture, or the Knicks chasing nostalgia. Boston offers something different: structure, spacing, accountability. If Zion fails there, then maybe the problem was never the team. And if he succeeds, the Eastern Conference balance shifts overnight. The question is no longer if Zion will be traded. It is who is brave enough to accept that upside still matters more than fear.